Hello lovelies, welcome to another Off Topic Tuesday. I guess we're back on course. Here we are. Labour's in power in the UK. They've been in power for a little while now, and it turns out that not the Tories wasn't much of a platform after all, however important it might have been at the time. Getting rid of the Tories certainly wasn't a mandate for red Tories. Who could have guessed? Well, I guess plenty of people did. People, unfortunately, like Navarra Media, Owen Bloody Jones, that corner of the internet you quietly unfollowed because they were being too angry too soon and couldn't enjoy the victory. Well, mea culpa, I guess. It felt like sour grapes from the Corbynite left, and honestly I still think a lot of it was and is. But I was a bit too quick to dismiss them for being moaning minis, when at least we had, after all, after 14 long years, gotten rid of the Tories. I think part of the problem is that Labour are taking their mere 1/3 of the vote as some sort of mandate for what they're doing, when it isn't. They're also taking their shift to the right as being responsible for their success, which it probably wasn't either. Labour won on about 33% of the national vote this time around. They'd previously managed to get 40% under Corbyn in 2017, when they were considerably more left-wing. So, yeah. Overall, the vote on the left-hand side of the column is about 2/3 of left liberal type people. Though you have to consider that tactical voting was a huge thing this time around, and people really wanted shot of the Conservative Party. Then we've had the recent local elections, which aren't completely nationwide, but there Labour have only managed to get about 20% of the vote, whereas the Reform Party has gotten about 30% of the vote. All the usual provisos about local elections apply: protest votes, motivations, etc. The broader left-right split is about 50-50 now, which is uncannily similar to the US situation. But the right is more unified around its two parties than the left is, either within the Labour movement or between its more left-wing parties, including the Lib Dems and the Greens, for the sake of argument. Labour used to be the party of big, bold, attention-grabbing policies that made everyone's life materially better. The NHS, obviously, the welfare state itself, council housing, public transport that didn't make you feel like a cow on the way to slaughter and didn't charge the earth, things like that. Stuff that keeps countries running. Infrastructure. This was the party of industry, unions, solidarity, progress, freedom, a political movement that rebuilt the country after a war and instituted radical change, such as the NHS, when the economy was in a far more parlous state than it is even now. So where's that courage now? Where are the big ideas and the bold vision to reshape British society? Oh, just to get back some measure of what we've lost in decades and decades of Tory mismanagement and piracy would be nice. Even Blair, warmonger that he was, at least had some sort of vision. You might not have liked the destination, but you at least knew where the man was going. And then they ballsed it all up over the Iraq War and sucking American cock. History rhymes, doesn't it? As to Starmer, you get the sense that he'd rather pull over and ask for directions from a hedge fund manager before doing anything, and we all know that real men don't ask for directions. And I am tired. We're all tired. But Starmer's Labour doesn't offer hope. It offers accountancy, bean counting. Normally I'm all for a bit of grey technocracy because at least it gets the job done, but competence and administration isn't going to be enough to stave off the far right. Especially when your attitude to migrants, the disabled and the unemployed is straight out of the right-wing playbook. They'll never vote for you when you say and do such things, even if it's what they like, but your base will certainly take notice and will stay away. It's the same problem as when companies make stuff for modern audiences. That audience is largely illusory and your base gets pissed off and you're nothing at all without your base. So let's start with the obvious cruelties, the winter fuel payment changes, because nothing screams strong moral and ethical government like making pensioners pick between food and heating. Bold move, lads. This has been massively overblown. Of course, all they actually did was to make the assistance means tested, something the civil service in the Treasury has wanted to do for ages, because they congenitally can't stand universal benefits. But the optics are terrible. And this is what they came out of the gate doing, so immediately soured people. Personally, I have no issue with the usually untouched wealthy pensioners paying back into the system more when they can afford it, but it does look really bad, and it has been a convenient stick for the right wing to beat the Labour Party with. And then there's the cuts to disability support that seem to be incoming. Now, I'm biased on this one, obviously, being somewhat disabled, but this was flabbergasting. For a lot of us, staving off the cruelty of the Tory treatment of the disabled was a big reason to vote Labour. Then they only go and make things worse anyway. That's Tory policy. That's not a Labour one. They're supposed to be the alternative. Even the Lib Dems, normally pretty economically right-wing, have allowed their social conscience to set them against this policy. Labour should not be outflanked on the left by a party that was in coalition with the Tories, not all that long ago, really. Taking cash out of the pockets of people who already have to fight for every crumb, it's not just disappointing, it's morally and ethically disgusting. And I'm not just saying that because I'm in receipt of those benefits. More importantly, it's a choice that didn't have to be made. Some sort of increased tax on wealth, getting them just to pay what they actually owe would do it. That would be more than enough to fund ambitious policies, and at least not to make things worse. Then there's immigration. Rhetoric that could have been lifted straight from a Farage tweet or an unwise group text. Labour's only clear principle seems to be triangulation. If the Tories went full goose step, you get the feeling Starmer would meet them halfway by funding more comfortable jackboots for the Gestapo. Now, in the interest of fairness, let's take a look at the good side of things, because there is some. They've made noises about closer ties with the EU, not rejoining, mind you, just sort of vague gestures to being less self-harming than we have been. That's promising. We're starting to see some of that come into fruition, but nothing short of rejoining will make a big enough difference quickly enough to people. They've started to take back bits of the railways. Not enough, but it's a start. The fact that we have to cheer for basic renationalisation that should have happened a decade ago is, well, it's pathetic, but it's something, and it's positive. The water companies, they're finally getting a little bit of a slap for polluting our rivers. A mild one, a firm talking to, a meeting without coffee, and maybe a fee that they can write off in tax. Not exactly revolutionary. Many of them are still paying out huge dividends and bonuses to people rather than investing it in the system. But baby steps. Labour's also floated a sovereign wealth fund, set up GB Energy, which isn't as good as it sounds, but it's something. All of these things sound kind of good until you read the fine print. They're not transformative, they're slogans with footnotes. It's tinkering around the edges that likely won't make a visible impact on people's material conditions, and therefore they're going to remain pissed off at the government. Whoever is in government, really. All this stuff isn't ambitious, and it does not have a story to it. They're rearranging deck chairs and hoping nobody notices the iceberg. And while they play it safe, the far right is sharpening its knives and offering a vision. It's a retarded, nasty, squalid vision. It's completely at odds with reality, but it's a story. And to too many people, it is a compelling story. It's simple. It's not complicated. So they go for it, either because they're nasty, squalid and stupid, or because they're desperate and the main parties haven't managed to make any noticeable change for the better in their lives. And here's the danger, and it's not abstract. We've seen this movie before. First past the post systems, like ours, they don't reward nuance, especially in the current climate. They reward rage and fear. When the supposed left offers nothing but grey technocratic drivel, people look elsewhere, even if on paper the drivel is materially better than the situation they were in, or will be in if they get their way. The elsewhere that they look, usually to the loudest, most obnoxious person in the room, shouting the wrong solutions and advocating for machine gunning small boats in the channel. It's the same as happened in the States. Biden's government did a lot of things, lots of good things, many of them really good, but always half measures and always trying to compromise, and without a story behind them, and barely noticeable to the man in the street when he went to buy eggs, iconically. You'd never know that they did anything because they didn't tell anyone about it. Now Trump's back, and American fascism isn't just a threat, it's a template and a reality. Fortunately, Trump is so obnoxious and so globally hated that it has undermined right-wing movements and led them to fail in Canada, Australia and elsewhere. Here in the UK, we're in our Biden phase, like so many other countries around the world, but we're failing to learn the lessons of the Biden protest vote. You have to make change, you have to make progress in the opposite direction to the far right, bold change, not compromise with them. Don't kid yourself into thinking it can't happen here. It is happening here, with a similar 1/3 to 1/4 of the electorate being vulnerable to becoming die-hard fascists. And we have a media ecosystem drenched in right-wing bias and propaganda, and new media is certainly not any better if TikTok and Facebook are anything to go by. We've got centrist leaders too cowardly to stand for anything meaningful, and we've got a public sick of being told that things are hard but they could be worse. This person's worse, so vote for me. Here's a radical idea: make things better for ordinary people. Give people something to vote for rather than against. And so we've got a Labour government that came to power on a landslide with the Tories in ruins, and Labour's first instinct was, let's not rock the boat. The country's on fire, the world is on fire, and Starmer's plan is to change the batteries in the smoke detector. You know, technically, that makes things better, but not really. We needed a radical response to decades of austerity, climate collapse, and social decay. Bold, radical moves, the restoration of the welfare state, corporate power made to pay its share and having its power curtailed. Instead, we got policy documents written by ghosts in suits terrified of offending the Daily Mail. Well, fuck the Daily Mail. So Labour won't save us, not like this. They could, and they'd be heroes for doing so. And if they can't find the guts to try, someone else will step in and pretend that they can, and they will, as Trump has, make things worse. Usually at the expense of a minority or several, maybe immigrants, maybe trans people, maybe people with freckles. And that should scare all of us. But relying on that fear won't carry the day at the next election. Sucks, doesn't it? Sang. At the end of World War II, the Axis and the Allies went to war with A-bombs until nobody was left to fight. In this atomic wasteland, a new breed of rockabilly hero arises. From the gleaming domes of Science City Zero to the sleazy roller derbies of Vegas and the sky fortress of the Fourth Reich, there's a new world for the taking. 45, Psychobilly Retropocalypse. Available at lulu.com and RPG Now.
I can get you anything you want. You just have to talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. I'm your priest. I'm your shrink. I'm your main connection to the switchboard of souls. I'm the magic man. The Santa Claus of the subconscious. You say it. You even think it. You can have it.